Hello everyone. Hi, welcome back. If you join me on my first webinar, which was at 9:30 this morning. If this is your first time joining me for this particular webinar, welcome. Thank you ever so much. My name is Chris, and I'm one of the Shortcuts educators here. Okay, so just to sort of keep everyone up to sort of date and everyone up to scratch, today we are running through basically the whole aspect of stock. Now, stock is one of those things I get asked quite a lot, and I just thought, because there's so many variables to it, and it's sort of a great time now to sort of take control of your stock, get everything sorted out. I thought we would just have a day where we basically just split it down. Now, some of you may have been on my webinars before where I managed to sort of cram it all into basically an hour's webinar where we go from top to bottom. But I thought today we're going to run through it in basically dissect it into different segments. So what we're looking at now, this is part two. Of course, if you joined me on part one, that was brilliant. If this is your first time joining me today, part one is actually already on YouTube. I had sort of a 10-minute break in between. I managed to get that on there just in case anybody wanted to recap beforehand or anything like that. But stage two, what we're going to be going through now, that's all going to be doing a stock take, okay? So, of course, this is also going to be uploaded to YouTube. I usually say between 2 to 3 days to get that posted on there. However, like I said, I did manage to get the last one uploaded onto YouTube sort of in a 10, 15-minute gap. So that should be appearing sort of any time now. So, of course, it does, of course, go without saying, please ensure your speakers are turned up nice and loud. Hopefully, everyone can hear me nice and clearly. So again, I apologize, a little bit of initial housekeeping. I appreciate if you were on my webinar an hour ago. The housekeeping is exactly the same. So just sort of kick back, make yourself comfortable just for the next couple of minutes, just while I run through the housekeeping for everyone else. So the duration of this webinar, again, it's going to be between 30 to 40 minutes. We're going to take it nice and slow, but we're going to get as much information in as possible. Of course, my microphone has been switched on, whereas if you're listening in with a headset or, like, I don't know, one of those, like a hands-free kit, your microphone has been muted. So unfortunately, you're not able to talk back to me, but please feel free to drop me some messages, some comments throughout, all of that kind of good stuff. Please do try and make it as interactive as possible. Please don't be shy. You can drop me a little message. You can do it in the Q&A box, anything you like. Or, of course, at the end, please feel free to drop me an email. Okay, so in this stage two session, we're going to be covering generating a successful stock take. Now, why do we do a stock take? Why do we have to do this? The reason, basically, in long and short, is to ensure the system knows just how much stock you have in stock. Okay, there's no good sort of trying to do an order, which is what we're going to cover in our next session. There's no good trying to do an order if our stock levels are totally wrong, because we're going to end up with too many or, of course, not enough. It does also affect things, which is what we're going to go through in our fourth webinar. It does affect things such as your stock report. So it affects how much VAT you pay or, of course, don't pay, equally as bad as each other. So it does have a knock-on effect. So we do need to ensure our current stock levels are totally accurate. Okay, and there's going to be a couple of ways we're going to do this today. So again, we're just going to run through just a very quick slideshow just to show you how it works before we jump straight into our live demonstrations. Now, of course, if you've been on my webinars before, I do love sort of a mixture between PowerPoint presentations and live demonstrations. That rhymed. It's just to give you a bit of a head start into it, sort of dip your toe into it, give you a bit of a nice ease into it. Then we can move straight into the live demonstration where we're going to crack straight on with as much detail as humanly possible. So what we're going to do, we're going to run through a slide of how to do a stock take. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just simply going to click onto the stock take button. And then we're just going to click the new button. We can see that just here where the arrow is pointing. Okay, so once we've clicked onto the new button, that's going to determine we are going to do a new stock take. Okay, then of course what we need to do, we need to tell Shortcuts, we need to tell the system the products, of course, we wish to count. So to do this, we click the add button to the right hand side. Okay, and you can see we've got a list of all of our products we've got just here. So you may remember from my first webinar, we added in Kerastars, Nutritive, and Bainsatin in one. So hopefully that should be familiar to everyone. Okay, then what we can do, we can simply click the relevant product, click the add button. So we can add the product in, and that will add that specific product to our stock take form, okay? So all we would be doing at this stage is just simply adding our products to the stock take form. Then what you'll notice, of course, here, if we look at our screen to the top left-hand corner, you will see we've just got the one product in our stock take. Probably wouldn't be worth doing that in a real life scenario, but you can see we've added that product in. Okay. And then as soon as we start our stock take, we're going to be prompted to print out 3 reports just here. Now, I would always recommend moving forward, I would always recommend you do have an A4 printer in a salon, because of course it's going to make your stock taking much, much easier, because you can simply print your stock take form out and write your findings on that, and it will be much easier. Okay, please contact us if you do wish us to recommend a printer for you. So it's going to ask you to print out 3 forms, and we can see the 3 forms in front of us. And we have our stock take form, our unlist items form, and our stock maintenance form. Okay, now it asks us to print out 3 forms. Later on, I'm going to divulge a little bit more information as to exactly what these 3 reports are. But for the face value, for the time being, it will ask us to print out 3 forms. Then once we printed out the forms, we would go and do our physical stock take. So we're going to take that stock take form, we're going to take that physical sheet of paper, we're going to take it to our Kerastars stand, and we're going to write on our sheet of paper, we're going to do our stock take, we're going to write our findings. Then once we've done our physical stock take on our physical sheet of paper, we need to input all of that data back onto the system. Okay, so we basically need to mirror what we have on our physical sheet of paper back onto the system, because that way, of course, the system will know the amount of products we have in stock. And then all we do is in the count column, which is the second column in just here, we simply input all of those findings. So I said I counted 3 products, okay? And we can see that from the second column in, I simply counted 3 products. Okay, from that point, all we would do is literally click the finish button, and it is as simple as that. Okay, and you'll see we get this screen. It says, are you sure you want to complete this stock take? Committing this stock take will update your shortcuts current levels. Okay, that's exactly what we want to do. Perfect. So let's get started. So what we're going to do is exactly the same as before. We're going to open up our Shortcuts Fusion system. And on the right-hand side, we're going to click the stock button on the right-hand side of our navigation bar. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to go down to the stock take button, which is the 3rd option down. Okay. Then it says we need to add in all of our products. So we're going to do a brand new stock take. So in the top right-hand corner, where we've got our big green plus sign where it says new, we're going to click that new button and start by doing a new stock take. And then it says here we have a little description and the date. Of course, that is today's date. So we've got our description. That is simply the brand or the name of the company of the products we wish to count. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a Paul Mitchell stock take. Okay. So I'm going to simply type in Paul Mitchell, just like that. But of course, you could do L'Oreal, you could do Kerastars, you could do Redken, whichever it may be. To the right-hand side of that, you will see who is responsible. Now, it's typically whoever is logged in. If not, you can simply hit the drop-down arrow and then just change who is responsible. Okay, so we've told the system we're going to do a Paul Mitchell stock take. So towards the bottom right-hand corner, we are going to click the next button. And it is on this screen, we are going to determine and add the specific products in, okay? This is where we get to add those specific products, those specific lines, those specific companies, okay? This is where we're going to add those products in. So to the top right-hand corner, we are going to click the Add button. And you will see here, we have a list of all of our companies. So we've got Davines, Kerastars, Paul Mitchell. Now you may remember from my first webinar, we added in Kerastars, which was a new company, okay? So there are 3 ways we can do this. First and foremost, if you wanted to count every single Paul Mitchell product, every single line that fell under Paul Mitchell, every single Paul Mitchell product, you will see here we have this grey dotted tab to the left-hand side of Paul Mitchell. Clicking this tab will simply include every single line, every single product under that Paul Mitchell company brand name. Okay. Now, of course, that is going to be a lot of products. So with that being said, you may wish to count just one specific line of products. Now, remember from my first webinar, a line of products is what falls under the specific company. So if we expand the company, i.e. Paul Mitchell, you will see we get a list of our line of products. Now, if you were on my first webinar, if we expand Kerastars, we've got our nutritive line of products. So if you wanted to just add in every single product that falls under a specific line, you can click the gray dotted square next to the line of products, and that will add in every single product that falls under that line. So it may be you just want to count every single product that falls under the Awapui line, okay? But again, that could be quite a lot of products. And then a third way we could do this is to choose the individual specific products. Now to do this, we would expand the line by clicking the yellow cross. And you will see we get a list of all of our individual specific products. And it may be just a case of you want to just count these top 7 or 10 products. And to do that, we would just click each individual gray dotted square next to the relevant product. And that will simply add those 6, 7, or 8 products in. Okay, so 3 ways we can do it. We can click the gray dotted square in line with the company, and that will add in every single line, every single product, okay, every single aspect here. If we expand the company to reveal the line, i.e. Awapui, we can click the gray dotted square next to that relevant line and add in every single product under that line. Or the third step, which gives us more control over each specific product, is to simply click the gray dotted square in line with each product. Now, when we're happy, all we're going to do on the right-hand side is we're going to click the add button closest to us, okay? We're not going to click the done button. We're going to click the add button because, of course, we need to add these products to our list of our stock take form. So we simply click add. And there we go. We've got those 7 or 8 products just there. Now, of course, you can continue adding in products, extra lines, anything like that. But I'm happy with those 7 or 8 products. And we're going to click the done button just to the bottom right-hand corner. Okay, our stock take form is now ready to be printed. Okay, it's now ready to be printed out so we can write our findings on there. So what we're going to do in the bottom right-hand corner, we're going to click start because of course we need to start this stock take. So we're going to click start in the bottom right-hand corner. And it says, are you sure you want to activate this stock take? Yes, we're happy. We're going to click the green tick where it says yes. Okay, now this is where it asks us to print out those 3 forms. So what are the 3 forms? Well, the first form is the stock take form. Okay, I would always recommend you do print that out because of course that is the physical form we're going to write our findings on. That is exactly what we're going to do our stock take on. That's what we're going to write all of our counts on. The unlist items form is whilst you're physically walking around your salon, you happen to come across products that are physically in the salon but do not appear on your stock take form. So maybe you decided to do a full Awapui line of products, but you notice there's a couple of products in the salon that don't appear on the list, in which case they need to be added to your shortcut system. And you can refer back to the first webinar we went through this morning on how to do so. If you weren't on that, again, like I said, it is on YouTube. And then we have our stock maintenance form. Now, our stock maintenance form is simply a form, again, whilst we're physically walking around our salon, if we notice any products which are damaged, okay? Now, for the time being, just while we get to grips with it, all we're going to do is we're just going to print the top one, okay? Because that's all we need to write our findings on. The stock take form is what we're going to use to physically walk around our salon and physically count all of our products, okay? Now, once you've done a few successful stock takes and you feel your stock levels are pretty much accurate, what I would always recommend you do in the bottom left-hand corner of this table, I would click where it says print shortcuts current levels. Now what that does, that will print what the computer thinks you have in stock. Now think of that as giving a bit of a safety net, okay? That lets you know whether there should be more or less products in a salon. Because of course, if we think of a real life scenario, let's say you've counted 6 keratin cream rinse. How do you know if there's not 10 in a salon? How do you know to keep searching? Well, your Shortcuts current levels will tell you what it thinks you should have in stock. Okay. Now, again, I always recommend we keep this box ticked. Now, for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm not going to print anything out. So I'm just going to take the tick out of these 2 boxes. And what we're going to do is we're going to click the done button. Okay, our stock take form is now ready. Okay, so that would now be printed out. Okay, so that would have been physically printed out. Then, of course, what we would do, we would go to our Paul Mitchell stand, our Redken stand, our L'Oreal stand, all of that kind of stuff. Okay, and we would write on our stock take form. Now, the stock take form, just to let you know, will look exactly the same as what we're looking at on the screen. So when you're doing your physical stock take on the sheet of paper, you will write in the count section, okay? That will be all of your findings, okay? So you're going to walk around the salon, you're going to go to your Paul Mitchell stand, you're going to go to your Redken stand, whichever it may be. On the physical sheet of paper, we're going to write in the count section how many products you have in stock, okay? Now, once you've done that, what we need to do, we need to mirror, we need to input all of that data on that sheet of paper onto our shortcut system. So what we're going to do, we're going to come back to our shortcut system. Now, I appreciate in that time, somebody probably would have clicked off, made appointments, moved the screen around, everything like that. So if that is the case, all you need to do is just go right back to the beginning and just click on stock and click on stock take. And it will take us directly back to this screen. So you'll see we've got our Paul Mitchell. All we need to do is click back into Paul Mitchell, click next, and it takes us directly back to the screen we were on 1 to 2 minutes ago. So we have our physical sheet of paper and we have written all of our findings. We've done our stock take. So we need to collate and add and mirror all of that information from that physical sheet of paper back onto our shortcut system. Now, the beauty of this, ladies and gents, is of course what we look at on the screen here is exactly the same as the physical sheet of paper. So of course it will appear in exactly the same order, which will make your life nice and easy when you input all of the data. So at this point, all we would need to do is simply replicate what is on the sheet of paper onto our shortcut system. And we just do that by adding in the numbers. Okay. As simple as that. We just write what we found on our sheet of paper into the second column where it says count. Now, you will notice we have here where it says the adjustment value. Okay, so you can see we've got some numerical digits just here. So what this basically means is I've now said for this finishing spray 200 milliliters, I've said I've counted 2 products. So I have found 2 products in the salon, but the computer thought I had 0 in stock. So essentially, I found just under £20 worth of stock. And of course, it works in the other way around as well. Okay, so it's worth bearing that in mind. So we've done our stock take. We've inputted all of the findings from our physical sheet of paper. The last step is, of course, to click the finish button and the stock take will be complete. So we're going to click the finish button in the bottom right-hand corner. And you will see it says, are you sure you want to complete this stock take? Committing this stock take will update your shortcuts current levels. Well, of course, that is exactly what we want to do. We want to update our shortcuts current levels. So what we're going to do is we're going to click yes. And it will say there are product counts that are different to the recorded values or that have been sold during the stock take. Okay, what that means is what the computer thought we had in stock is different to what we physically just counted. Did we miscount? Were they sold during the stock take or anything like that? It is recommended that you recount these items. So would you like to perform a recount? Choosing no will update your shortcuts current levels. Well, I'm happy I've done a successful stock take. I know I've counted correctly. So what I'm going to do, choosing no will update your current levels. So I'm going to click no. Congratulations, you have successfully completed a stock take. Product levels will be updated according to your current counts. Okay, so we're going to click done. I'm just going to click done and we're just going to navigate away. So to check this has worked, we're going to click products on the right hand side. We're going to expand Paul Mitchell to reveal the line of products. Now I counted products under the Awapui line, so I'm going to expand Awapui, and there we have it. Our current stock levels have changed. And it is as quick and as easy as that. Okay, so we've now updated our shortcuts current levels. Now, don't worry if you make a few mistakes, so you're not quite sure you did it again, did it right. You can do it as many times as you like, okay? Because of course, as we move forward, you're going to continually need to do stock takes every couple of months, every quarter, everything like that. So please don't worry, go back and redo it if you think you made a bit of a mistake. Okay, so just to recap there, we did a successful stock take. Of course, if you were on my first webinar, we also went through adding our lines, our suppliers, our companies, our brands, everything like that in. We also added our maximum and minimum levels in. And of course, during this webinar, we just did our current stock take. So in our third webinar, which I believe is in just under an hour, I think it's about 11:30, we will be running through how to do an automated order. Now, those automated orders are all based on this 3 columns just here. It is based on our current stock levels because, of course, it needs to know how many we have in stock before it can place an order. And then it uses our maximum and minimum levels. Now, if you weren't on my first webinar, just to let you know, the maximum column is the number of products we aim to have on the shelf after we receive an order. And the minimum level column is what our current stock level will fall below to place it back up to the maximum. Okay, so these 3 columns work in unison with each other. So that was what we would need to do moving forward before we can do an automated order. Ensure our current stock levels are totally bang on by doing the steps I just showed you. That will ensure we don't under order or over order. And of course, our maximum and minimum levels will also ensure that we don't end up with too many or of course not enough. Perfect. So thank you ever so much. So just under the 30-minute mark there. Thank you ever so much for joining me. Of course, if you do have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer those now. Hello, when I'm trying to do a stock take, I'm struggling to find some products. Okay, there's a couple of reasons that could be. I'll try and, it's one of those things, I'll try and answer it as best as possible. I'll give you a couple of steps to run through. One of the things, just to double check, the actual product, if you're physically finding it in a salon, but you're noticing it's not on your shortcut system, one thing to just double check would be to click onto the products button on the right-hand side. And then, of course, just expand the relevant company. So if it's Davines, Kerastars, Paul Mitchell, Redken, all of that kind of stuff, expand the relevant company and expand the relevant line of products and just double check that the product is physically there. So just run through, just double check the product is physically there. If it is, there isn't really too many reasons why it won't pull through to the stock take because it feeds through from the same thing. But again, just to double check when you do your stock take, and if we just do a new one and we just call it test, when you're adding your products in, what you can do is you'll notice here we've got your Davines, Kerastars, Paul Mitchell. That pulls through exactly the same as what it was just a couple of minutes ago. Everything pulls through exactly the same as before. One thing you could just double check is here where it says sort by company and line. You could maybe sort by supplier. Now, one thing you may notice, if it does say that here where it says no supplier, you may notice some of your products are under the no supplier section. If that is the case, what you will need to do is go back to your products on the right-hand side. And if you're on my first webinar, we will toggle in the bottom corner to where it says supplier. And again, you'll notice everything looks exactly the same. And you may have a list of products here. In that case, you will simply need to click and drag and drop them under the relevant supplier. Okay. But if you're noticing that you physically got them in a salon, but they're not on the shortcut system, we would just need to add those in. If you are finding them in the product section, but they're not pulling through to the stock take section, like I said, just toggle between company and line. If I just show you that again, toggle between company and line and supplier and just make sure they are under the correct company, are under the correct supplier. That's probably the first couple of steps I would take just to ensure they're all seated, they're all categorized properly. If not, drop me an email at the end and we can look into further steps. But that's usually where they found. They've usually not been put under supplier or a category or anything like that. But that, I feel confident that will probably sort that issue out for you. Perfect. Any other questions for me this morning? Perfect. Okay. So I think that's it for all of the questions for our second stage. Hopefully everyone will be able to join me on our third webinar today, which is starting in just over half an hour. That'll be 11:30. And that is where we're going to go through automated ordering, which is basically going to involve the first two steps of the webinar, our first two webinars, sorry, and that will show you how to generate an automated order. So hopefully everyone will be able to join me for that. If not, again, this webinar will be uploaded onto YouTube, as will that one. And hopefully you can watch that back in your own time. But again, thank you ever so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure speaking to everyone. Hopefully I'll be able to speak to you all again soon. Thank you ever so much. Take care. Bye-bye for now.